let's start off uh, with how you found out about my training, because this is for me, my training is quite unique. Would you agree?
Uh, yes, I would. Yes.
Yeah, so it's quite unique. It's not I wouldn't say it's a very easily understand principle to start with, right? So it's kind of okay, concentrating on one body part, which is the feet, but it does something else to the glutes, and also later on will be your abs, and through this very little understood organ in the body called fascia, which is a connective tissue. So yeah, let's start off with how did you find out about me? Because I'm always curious how people find out about me.
Well, actually, I found out about you last year in or actually 2 years ago, early 2017. I think it was like April of 2017.
Okay.
And so I started training in April of 2017, I would say. And I found about you through Instagram. Obviously, I'm looking at the best ways to improve myself as an athlete. And at this time, I'm doing track and field. So I'm like a junior in high school. And I found you on Instagram looking through like ways to jump higher, run faster. And then I found your Instagram page. And then I found out about the kind of training that you do. And that linked me to your actual YouTube channel. And then I went to your YouTube channel, and then I got to know more about you and like what your training was all about. And I started implementing that into my actual training, like into my track season. And I was just noticing like that it was just like a different kind of training. I didn't really think much about it at the time. I didn't really understand the things that you say now much at the time, because I wasn't actually feeling those things myself. So I didn't know if it was true or not. And I mean, it was just at that time I was kind of like, well, this is the kind of training where it doesn't seem like many people are giving it a shot. And it seems like it's a long time to get results. And I'm not looking to be doing work for a long time. That's what I was thinking, but I still gave it a shot.
Right.
And I was just implementing it into my training. And this year and last year and a little bit in 2018 was the time when I really started to do it. Like I was doing the workouts every day, like all the time. And I'm just being really consistent with it now. And like just this past year, I would say these last 4 months have been the time where I've been taking it the most serious. I have not like done anything really. Like I was kind of trying to avoid the fact that it was true that I had to do the Hyperarch training. I was just trying to I was doing a lot of barefoot stuff, like a lot of barefoot sprinting, a lot of barefoot jumping and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't really doing the Hyperarch hops, and I was just kind of like avoiding doing it, because I was just kind of like, well, I'm just gonna do it the more natural way, because like obviously like through evolution, like obviously running barefoot would probably give you more advantage of just doing hops. You know what I mean? Nobody would think, but like the connection that those hops actually gives you, it's like I can't really do it with sprinting. And now I know that, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
I know it's a different feeling. It's not the same feeling. Now that I feel my actual glutes engaged and I feel like my feet and I see my body is changing, I literally, like I feel every single day I wake up, I feel different. My body just, I swear to God, my body's like, like Chong, like even today I was doing hops. Like today was the first time ever where I'm like noticing where I'm actually seeing muscles within muscle, like in my leg, like the definition in muscle. Like, when you look at somebody's leg and you see like, let's just say like Bruce Lee and stuff like that, where you could see like muscle within muscle. Like,
Right.
how there's a big muscle group, but you see the definition in it. That's like what I'm noticing in my body. And I'm saying like, these are just changes that I'm seeing every single day that weren't ever here. Like I'm at the point right now of my training where I am making the biggest change in my body. Like this is, I would say, the time, like how you would describe, like where the morphing of a teenager would take place. Like I have not noticed any, like I have made such rapid growth in me these last 4 months. Like I would just these last 2 weeks, even, it's just like how fast I'm noticing these improvements.
Okay.
Like,
How long have you been? So let's talk about your athletic background, right? So you were in high school doing uh, the triple jump.
Yes.
And
And
and now you're college. You're in college. Are you Division One or?
yeah, I am a Division 1 athlete. Yep.
Okay.
But I want to tell you, Chong, that I am like, and I mean this in the most like in the most serious way. I am probably the only athlete that it's like a miracle to have made a D1. Okay, like I would say like it's not that I wasn't good. It's just the way I started off wasn't that way. Like ninth grade, 10th grade, I wasn't jumping far at all. I was jumping like 14 feet, and I was just a regular high school athlete. And you could even ask like my coaches just that have coached me. It's just, and I have gotten myself up to this point, and like even though I was progressing and getting good, I wasn't doing it the way that I guess this training would give you. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is the natural way, I would say.
Right. So you started off just as a regular kid sort of, and then you started training Hyperarch for the last year or so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people when they first look at this thing, they would think, okay, so you're saying like foot is more important. Let me just go barefoot. So let me just address that point, right? So the barefoot training has been there for I think a long time. Um, the problem with barefoot training is barefoot training would help, I would say, if the practitioner is younger, like much younger, like if they're like for example, if they're like even as young as six to maybe six, from the point they start working, start walking, sorry, to their early adolescence or childhood. If they always barefoot and play sports barefoot that way, the foot should naturally have tension in them. But the fact is that majority of the people today in our society, we grew up with a shoe. So naturally, we're actually programmed by the shoe to sort of relax in the shoe. That's a natural adaptation. But of course, there are elite athletes who don't relax in the foot, and then their foot shows the sign of morphing as well. So this is basically a reverse engineering of that process. Also, with the Chinese Taiji principles, really talks about how through fascia tensioning, and this counts as a internal, I would say, internal martial arts, because it internally makes you more connected, and also at the same time it stimulates the growth in your small nerves in your glutes and later on in your abs.
So your actual muscles grow, you're saying?
Not the muscle by itself, but it's really the connective tissue, which is the fascia within the body. That's the part that we're working with. So in order to trigger this process to fire, your foot has to be in isometric contraction. So this is exactly why we train this way, is to force the body to use fascia instead of muscle. So if your foot is like, let's say, pausing, right? The muscles in your foot is pausing and it's not in a isometric state, your fascia is not necessarily being used. So that is why, like, there's various, you're gonna get various different type of results. But if you train the Hyperarch way using the Hyperarch fascia tensioning method, you actually stabilize your foot, and then from there, your body is forced to use the fascia.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's the main difference between a barefoot training regimen where you're just barefoot, you're just running and learn how to move with barefoot. I think when we do the Hyperarch Fascia training here in person, which I mainly work with the basketball athletes, is that we start off with barefoot, right? We start with barefoot, and we train with the Hyperarch Fascia method by configuring the foot properly. And then we start off with the barefoot. And then once the athlete gets better, with their foot strength, then they progress into they start to wear the shoe. And then the mechanism can be triggered inside the shoe, so it's fine. So that's how we do it. Yeah, I'm very interested in your experience, right? So you had a lot of you definitely had a coach before, right? So what type of, or trainer before? So what type of training were you doing before?
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. I think the way I got myself to the collegiate level of track and field is honestly just like through my coach he was an Olympic weightlifting coach, so he was really good at weightlifting. So that's what mainly we did. We just did a lot of trike workouts, a lot of plyometrics, and just mainly weightlifting. That's how I got I think the majority of my jumping ability that got me to that level. But I would never say like we integrated like anything different. The majority was just like endurance work, speed work, nothing like this kind of training where it changes your body holistically. It's just like temporary training where like you gain muscle or some stuff like that.
Can you go into maybe give us some example of the training that you did?
Okay, yep. So for the majority of the time, I would do like weightlifting such as power cleans, back squats, front squats. That was mainly what I did, lunges.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the track workouts, we would do endurance work on Mondays, and like pit work, like where we would jump on Tuesdays. Wednesday would be an endurance workout, for example. Thursday would be like another speed workout, and then Friday would be events. That's an example of a training week. Never weightlifting. We would do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. We would lift, and we would just do heavy leg days on Mondays, and then Fridays, and then Wednesdays would be like light day, and then the jumping would just be Tuesdays and Thursdays to like minimize impact.
Oh, okay. So how much weight were you lifting in your training days?
So for the cleans one, I'm like at 145, like my average weight. I would say say I was cleaning around like I could clean like 160, 175, like like even higher weight, like back squats. I'm able to do 2 plates on each side, like 225. I wouldn't consider myself super strong.
Right.
I would just consider myself quick. Like I could move the weight fast. That's how I would I could move weight fast, and for my weight, I think I'm pretty strong. But I'm not the strong guy. Like I wouldn't say I got my ability from being strong. That's what I would.
Right. So you're 145. You lift like 225, right? So it's not some crazy strength level, right? It's just
it's not crazy, but it's good. It's a decent amount of strength, you know.
Right.
It's not like
it's not weak either. So if you can basically lift your body weight and a little bit, like 1.5 your body weight, right? Roughly.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I think majority of people who are in gyms, when they train lifting weights, they can get there. Because 1.5 body weight, one times their body weight, it's something that majority of people can do, but majority of people cannot jump like because they lack somewhere else, which is the fascia connection from the feet to the glutes. So I have this 7 questionnaire on the functional aspect of the assessment from the foot to the glutes. Did you do that one yet with me or not yet?
Oh, I have not actually, no.
Oh, okay. So we probably should do that too to understand where you are. But let me just give you a quick assessment, right? So if you right now your glutes wise, right? Is it hard mostly all the time, or when you lift your heel up, your glutes becomes hard? How much sensation do you feel in your glutes now?
All right. It's kind of like a weird feeling because when you describe it like in the book, the kind of feeling that I get, it's like when I lift my foot off the ground or when I lift my heels off the ground, it's not really like my glutes get hard. It's just like I feel free energy. I don't know how to describe it. It's like as soon as like I lift my heel forward a little bit, like it does it by automatically. It raises my heel automatically, and I feel like I'm on a bubble. I'm standing on a bubble, and I feel like I just feel like I'm being pushed like that. Like right now, I'm doing it right now as I'm standing. Like I'm obviously like the the amount of like tension that I feel, I think that depends on like the amount of strength my foot has at the moment. Because right after I do hyperarch work, I think like my foot is at the state where it's kind of tired. You know what I mean? When it's kind of more soft than when you start off because your fascia is fatigued. So when you go on your hyperarch mode, I don't feel it as strong. But after I have done the hyperarch work, I feel the tension mainly in my glutes, like, and I feel like there's something holding my glute, like it's like holding my weight. That's what I
Right.
feel.
So you feel like you're kind of being suspended.
Exactly. It's not really like a hard feeling, but I feel like somebody's holding it. That's what it feels like.
Right. So that makes
Exactly.
complete sense because fascia, as when your fascia start working optimally, it actually suspends your weight off your heels. So which I have posted the video of Zion Williamson, who's
Yeah, the
a,
best
yeah, who's
basketball.
the
Yeah.
right the basketball phenom, right? So I had a slow motion capture of his foot after a jump shot. His foot basically just levitates. I mean, the heel part just levitates. Like there's something that's holding it up. I think majority of people just overlook that because they just use the uh, explanation that, oh, he's genetically gifted, and that's it, and we stop right there. We don't look in any deeper than that. But if I were given a chance to look at his feet or get a photo of his feet, I'm pretty sure we're gonna find the same patterns that we saw with all the elite caliber athletes like LeBron James, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be very very similar. Um, and his functional assessment results is going to be very similar to any other elite caliber athlete, which is something that you start to experience now. You feel that great energy feeling. Let's talk about your the body changes that you start to experience. How do you describe that?
Okay, I am honestly like, it's honestly a shock, John, because I'm gonna be honest. Like when I first started feeling it, like you know what I mean. Like since I've been training so much in my life, like in track and everything, I never really tell because like I'm always sore. You know what I mean? Like as an athlete, like I'm always feeling sore. There's always a body part that's like that I feel more than others. So when I'm doing this hyperarch training, like I feel my glutes are sore. Like I feel my glutes are sore. I feel different body parts, but I never truly know, is it just only from the hyperarch or is it from the weightlifting, also from the track workout? So I was never able to really tell. But recently I've been noticing like changes where I've been getting that no amount of lifting in the past has done for me. So I know it's the hyperarch training that's doing this. So when I lift, the first changes I would say, let me think, that I started to notice. The first change is when I know that hyperarch training was noticing, it's just the way I was running. Like automatically my foot was just doing things and my hip was just doing things that never happened. Like when I was running, just my foot would automatically like just do this thing where it would turn to the side, and like my hip, I felt like it just had more mobility. Like it was like locked, and I felt like the fascia or something was like loosened up within the bone, and I just felt like it kind of loosened up my hip bone. So it made my foot go in this steer in that direction. And
Mm-hmm.
I read in one of your posts that your foot tends to go to the place usually where it's weakest. So I feel like people usually, like, I don't know, they pronate, they go to the weakest part of their foot usually, because I would say, like, I guess it's nature's trying to say it needs to get stronger or whatever. So I was just noticing like that my foot would turn different. I would notice my abs like just I was just noticing when I was doing the hyperarch hops, like I needed to stop because I felt like the cramping in my stomach. Like I was just feeling like, even today I felt it like a lot. Like I was doing the hops, like I was doing it. I was noticing that like it was just a cramping feeling every time my foot hit the ground. It was just connected from like my hip flexor up to like the second like in my mid ab, and I put
Mm-hmm.
my foot up while I was doing it, and I saw it like it was contracting. It's contracting as I'm doing it, like they're both sinking in like as I'm doing it, and I feel like somebody's squeezing my abs together, and it's like coming together as I'm looking at in the center, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at like the center is coming together, like, you know, the one side and then the next side. I feel like it's coming closer together, but it's going more towards the middle, like towards the midline. It feels like it's coming together. I don't know, like.
So
it's
so
like
it's
sorry, go ahead.
so it's like you're start feeling your glutes, and then you start feeling your abs, and your glutes connect to your abs, and then you're able to you're feeling this sensation in both your glutes and abs when you do the hyperarch hop.
Yep, exactly. And
Okay.
I feel when I do the hops, when I don't know, I feel like the fascia, like I has like on the bottom of my foot, I feel like it kind of like grips the ground. I don't know, like I don't know if I always get this feeling where like after I do the hyperarch work, like where my fascia like kind of like sticking out of my foot a little bit towards the bottom, and it kind of like sticks to the ground as I'm walking. And while I'm walking, I also feel it, like that it's like that part of my foot is like connected to that part of my glute. Like they're both like where I'm sore in my glute is like if you were to put like a line straight down, it would just be connected to that part of my foot. I feel that. So that's how you like. I don't. That's like the best way I could describe it. That's what I felt. Yeah.
Have you felt this way before using the weightlifting? Like for example, when you weightlifted before, have you felt the same sensation in the glutes this way or the abs?
No, to be honest, when people tell me glutes or do you fear your glutes, I don't think anybody before hyperarch work could totally know what glute activation would feel like, because
I agree.
No, because the first time in my life, I'm 18 years old, and I consider myself a very athletic person. Like, or I used to think I was athletic. I am literally nothing to what I am now, and that's why I'm honestly thinking I'm so surprised that I was able to get to this level, Chong. I'm honestly serious, because that's why I know I have so much potential as an athlete, because I'm like such a good athlete now, and I'm not even close to like how good I can be, because I like all the things that you like mentioned that, or you have all these signs, and if you're not there yet, then you have a long way to go. And a lot of it, I've done a lot, but I'm not nearly where I'm going to be at my best. You know what I mean? So I have not felt any of the sensations that I felt in, like, every time when I feel glutes, when my coach would tell me would I feel glutes in high school, I would tell him yes. But what I meant by that would probably be that I felt sore in my glutes. I never knew what glute activation felt like, because glute activation, honestly, I wouldn't consider anything that's not like something suspending and holding my weight, like when I'm in my hyperarch hop, when it's like that free weight, that's what I consider glute activation to me, because that's what gives you like that bounce. It gives you like, it's just like a forward momentum. Like I literally just think to myself like this, like 3 weeks ago, I think was the first time when I ran, and I felt the first time when I felt like somebody was pushing me from the back, like, you know, like,
right.
Like, and I always just think to myself, like, no wonder whenever I'm racing, I swear, Chong, because I'm like, how is it that you see a sprint and you say, how is it that somebody could beat that person by that much in a sprint or something like that? But if you think about it, Chong, if for every stride that you take and you have that little bit of a push from the glute, that's just like how much more you're in the air, how much more you're in the air, and how much you're like covering ground. And it's just
exactly,
you don't really have to prepare for the next step, because when the glute pushes you, it kind of pushes you so you land right under your center of mass. So when you're right under it, then it automatically pushes you to the next stride. So it's like running becomes effortless. You don't really have to like move your arms.
exactly.
Like your arms kind of control your legs. I feel like you never have to control it, because your glute, it kind of like pushes you. And I've never this was the first time I felt this in 3 weeks. I swear on my life, man. Like and that's why I'm so shocked, because I'm like, Ian, you have done so much hyperarch work, and I do a lot of work. Like I am able to do the hops, the quality hops, and I'm able to do it for a good amount of time. Like, and
how long do you do now?
Like I like right now, I'm like literally, I have to lay off for like about a week, because my indoor season just ended, and my track meet, I have a track meet March 30th, and my coach just told me like I need to like lay off, but I am on a fresh day, because on a week, like, even if I did hyperarch work yesterday, which I did, and I did some today, but not really. Yesterday I was taking it off. I was just doing more like hyperarch, like holds, not really the actual hops. Because I know you said like, obviously it's better time under tension to do it like one day rather than multiple days. So I try to like So I've been trying to do that, but I feel like I can do 3 minutes any day, no matter how tired. Like right now, I'm really tired, even though I can do probably up to 2 minutes any day. Any day, it's 2 minutes for sure on both legs.
Okay.
Then my right leg is always going to be a little bit better than my left, but I could always make my left catch up to my right. But this is not going to be as my interior is going to be a little more tired. This is not going to be as quality, but I can make it. But I always look for quality rather than just doing
Exactly.
it before.
Yes. Because we want to induce the locking of the ankle through fascia tensioning, and then when you do is quality, it really triggers the metamorphosis to change the body. The problem that I see with a lot of the beginners is when they do the hop, they do it incorrectly. They're letting their heel drop. They don't have enough tension because because they are programmed by the shoe to relax in the foot, so they never ever use enough tension in their foot before. So they think they're doing it correctly, but when we look at the video in the group, the Facebook group that we have, they do it wrong because they still let their heel drop. So when the heel drops, the foot is not locked. It doesn't give you the necessary benefit that we're looking for here. So that's one thing that I want to point out. And you're right on, because quality is always more important than quantity. You want to do it right. If you can do 1 minute, try to crank out that 1 minute. Do with quality, but don't go for more than 5 minutes or 6 minutes if your quality is poor, because that doesn't really help you. And that's exactly why, like jump ropes, people say, oh, does jump rope help? I say no, don't worry about jump rope, because jump rope, you're concentrating on your arms, you're concentrating on your swing, you're concentrating on jumping over the rope, right? Rather than focus on your foot, focus on your arc, and focus on fascia tensioning. So that's some of the questions. I think this is one of the most popular questions people ask me. Is this the same as a regular jump? It's not a regular jump.
It's definitely not.
So from here, you still have a lot to improve, because if you're doing 3 minutes now, because what happens is your foot is slowly morphing under tension. So when you are able to, let's say, do the 5 minutes in one go, you'll be on a different level. And from there on, you can also do the single leg hyperarch hop, and you're aiming for each foot. You're doing from 1 minute to 2 minutes. So you can alternate one foot and then the other foot. And I think by the time you're doing 1 foot and you're mastering the 1 foot, on both foot, you're going to be on a totally different level as well. Because I know for a fact that the basketball athlete that I work with, their acceleration when going up for the one leg dunk is significantly improved. So I think when you get to that stage, and when you do the triple jump, correct?
Yeah.
When you do that triple jump, because triple jump, you have to hop on your one leg, right? Three times, 2 times or 3 times?
It's 3 times, yeah.
3 times, and then you finally jump, right? So each step, you're on one leg, 1 foot. If the connection is strong in your foot, in that single foot stance, you're hopping 1, 2, 3, and then you jump, right? That's going to add momentum to your jump, not going to slow it down. I think by focusing on maintaining tension, you're going to keep your momentum going. Also, very importantly, that this is a holistic workout. So like what you're feeling in your abs and what you're feeling in your glutes, those are fascia. And when your body is more holistically connected, it will act as a single unit. Once it acts as a single unit, with the ability that you have and the passion that you have for your sport, you're gonna reach new levels.
It's funny you say that today, but I'm like, every single day that I'm doing this training, Chong, it's kind of like I know it's like how you say, like, it's connected, like your foot and your brain are connected, but I feel like your body, like everything changes, like my perception of things now changed, like the way I see athletes, you know what I mean? Because the way I was 2 weeks ago, Chong, 2 weeks ago, I didn't get this sensation. I never felt the sensation in my glutes before. So 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have known what it felt like. I wouldn't have known that when he ran, he felt this. You know what I mean? That Usain Bolt feels this, or that my friend that beat me feels this. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I always think like, why is it that people always like, worship people or like they idolize and they're like, oh yeah, this is a famous quote, whatever that they said. Like, in reality, we're all capable as humans to be able to do this. So, like,
now you start to believe in yourself, right?
yeah, I believe in myself so much, and I'm just seeing like all these wonderful athletes that came before me, and it's like in a way it's kind of sad, but it's like you can't give them the same respect that I did. Like you know what? Like even the world record holder, like it's like, wow, that's really cool, but it's like I already know your secret, so it doesn't like, it's not a big surprise. It's just who develops that secret to the best of their ability. Like that's, but it like, like I know I'm capable of doing it. There's no there's no doubt in my mind now that I could get to that level. I know I can.
Thank you. That's
I'm telling you now, John, that if I'm making, and I'm telling you, I don't think anybody's out there working harder than me right now with this training. I put my life on it. Like, I do this training every single day when I'm in college, when I'm in my dorm. I do this I live and breathe this, and I have made so much improvements. And like right now, all I gotta do is like, even if I took a week off rest, I'm gonna come back so much better because I put so much work in that taking a week off, like it would just be like you would just see how much potential like Hyperarch Fascia Training has, and like this is what it does. Like any day is different, like because if your glute activation one day is going to be different, then just think about how much more power you're going to have with every time you take a stride, or every time you take that's why you see like so many I feel like that's why you see some like such huge improvements in like PRs and things, because it's kind of like it just takes 1 second. It just takes one to like really change your body, like, or to start feeling these sensations, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's a huge difference. Like, think about every stride you take feeling glute versus every time you take feeling quad. Like, there's nothing to push you. There's nothing behind you to give you that, to drive you. There's no driver. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I feel like now that you have that, then it's always a possibility to just keep getting better and better.
That's very important, because before, when I talk about this, people think I'm crazy. I say that we are not much different than the elite.
The reason why you're not a millionaire right now, the reason why you're not that good, is because I think the whole world is basically quad dominant, and nobody gets to the point where they at least give it try it for, like, how you say, 6 months, give it the first 6 months, so nobody knows that you're speaking the truth. Because just like you said, how would a butterfly know that there's 4 life cycles when they've only lived 3? Like, how do these people know that you could feel glutes if they always felt quad dominant their whole life? Like me, like I didn't think this was even a thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I didn't know this was a thing, and I'm just like, I'm so happy because I'm so passionate. Like even if I'd be surprised for somebody that doesn't want to live, breathe, and do this every single day if they keep feeling these sensations. Like, if you're passionate about your sport, like, this is so easy. This is like easier than going out to the track and like doing all this work. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard work, but it's easy mentally because you know you're getting better. You know it's the real truth. It's not like weightlifting that in 2 weeks off, whatever, you can get sick and boom, that results go away. This is like with you. It sticks with you and it changes you, and like it kind of controls the movement for you. Like when I do the hyperarch hops, I never think about where my foot lands. I always just think, just keep your anterior tendon locked and keep your knee like this. And I just let my foot steer like the direction. I don't say, okay, I want to land on this part of the foot. I want to land, like, I just let it land where it does, like, so I just let it be like the main driver and everything like that.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I'm really happy to hear that I have somebody as passionate as you that doing this type of training, because this is what I really want, is to show people that they are much greater than they ever imagined.
No, I'm just saying, like, if anybody even felt like a little bit of like even the first initial feeling of glute activation, then they would know that you're speaking the truth. You know what I mean? Because how could you know this? Like you obviously didn't even know this yourself, John, because obviously you're not a professional athlete. Now, if you were LeBron James and he was saying this, then why wouldn't people believe him? You know what I mean? But like, nobody knows because they're quad dominant and they don't want to give it the shot. Like, I didn't want to give it the shot. That's honestly why I was sticking with the barefoot training and everything like that. But I'm just like, you know what, Ian, come on, let's just give this the shot. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, there is no other way out. The only way out is this. You know what I mean? So if this is the way, then this has got to be because there's no way to get to that level any other way. You know what I mean? So
yes, because if you are doing this way and this is this is giving you such change, such benefit that you're getting. Then you think about other training, they cannot replicate the same results. Then you need to focus more energy on this, because everybody's time is finite, right? We only have 24 hours a day. And if you spend 50% on other training, you're not going to be spending time on the Hyperarch Fascia training. Then you're not going to be getting the same result that you're getting now, right? You're totally right on saying the world is quad dominant. The world is quad dominant, and this is really because of our society, of the value that we have on the shoe, and we put the shoe on our kids way too young. And the research I've done from the neurological perspective is that if you put the shoe from way early on, in the critical stage of development, it actually hinders the neurological metamorphosis of the connection from your feet to the glutes to the to your brain. So this is something that we as a society we don't have enough conversation about. We just say, okay, you were born, here, wear a shoe, that's it. Like we don't really have that conversation. Say, hey, let's talk about what would happen if you put on a shoe, right? We never talk about that. We just kind of accepted the fact that, okay, yeah, we just watch these $1 million athletes do what they do, and we're just become idol worshippers ourselves, right? Because we tried before. I think I tried every single jump program there was, and I always had knee pain afterwards. So I said, this is the way I can't even enjoy the sports I like. I can't go on, right? So that was mainly my driver for my research. But again, I had a lot of luck because I had a friend who's really athletic. So that gave me a huge break. So let's talk about how do you think about, like, how were you viewing your sport before versus how you view it now?
It's a really good question, because like I love track and field, and I always loved track. But just recently, like I've been like in track and training, and I just always see my teammates and everything. And it's like a long season, and throughout the season, it's kind of like, oh my God, like we go to practice every day. We do lifting all the time. We do this year round. So like, what's the difference? Like, why aren't I really getting better? Like you always think like, what makes these elite caliber athletes? And it's just like, for me, I see myself like more motivated because I'm going to training every single day, and I'm seeing different things in practice. Every time I run, it's different. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should do this when I come out the blocks or something when I'm sprinting. And I'm like, wait a minute, Ian. Like, it's not even like I want to, because when I run differently after having done Hyperarch, I'm running differently automatically. And it's not even like I mean to, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I want to change my form and everything. But the next day, it's like it changes by itself. So I'm like, what the heck, man? This is crazy. Like, I wasn't even feeling this sensation yesterday. And I'm just like I'm not surprised if I could become so good, because look how much of a difference a day made. You know what I mean? So like, imagine if I put my heart, life, and soul into this, and I just lived, breathed, and did this. Like, this is like the work that we're doing now. This is the work that LeBron James doesn't have to do, because he already did it as a kid. He was probably like, he already did it growing up. It was just a basis of his environment, whatever. And it's not to say that there's many people that are quad dominant that didn't do it. They just probably didn't stick with them, or just something like they didn't integrate it into sport, and they didn't like, it's just something, you know what I mean? But
right, they didn't integrate into movement. So there's
many glute dominant people, because you could tell a glute dominant person when you see one. You know, you can see the way they stand, the posterior pelvic tilt that they have, the way that you could just see one, the way they stand, the way their posture is. You could see muscle within muscle, the way they run. Like, an athletic, a glute dominant person when you see one. And that's why the majority of African Americans obviously are obviously so athletic, because they're glutes dominant, and you can see it when they stand. Like, you can see it when they walk. They have that posterior pelvic tilt where like it seems like their butt is bigger or whatever, but it's really just the way that their shape and this Hyperarch training does. And that's what I've noticed about this training, that it's making me have that posture, and it's changing my posture. I swear to God, I'm like, and even when I'm sitting down, I'm like, I literally just had my friend tell me like 2 weeks ago, he's like, Ian, I've never seen anybody stand so straight. Every time I see you, you're always sitting so straight up. I swear to God, when you're And I literally have like the worst posture, but it's not even like I mean to. And it's probably because every time I do it. It's probably I literally just got done doing Hyperarch work. Like it's like the heat, like your body is like all warm, like that fascia system, and you just don't even have to try. Like I just sat there, and it was like my back was standing straight without me even having to try. Like
Yep.
it was just the way my posture was just. It just holds you up. It's like a fascia, like it like holds everything together. When I stand up, I notice like I feel like the skin like under my feet, like the tissue, like the actual fascia. And I notice that wherever I feel the tension under, it's like where I'm like standing the most straight on my hip. Like I notice my hip position. So wherever I'm noticing like the fascia under my heel, like because you have the skin under my foot, I notice where I'm standing, wherever I locate my foot is like it puts my hip up in that like raised position. You know what I mean? That pelvic tilt position, and that's why I feel the most glute activation when I stand in that position. So
yeah. So one thing I want to just briefly mention is that the African, like most people, like they say, oh, I have a flat feet, and they're worried, right? So it's not really the flat feet they should be worried about. They should be really worried about if their flat feet is due to the degeneration of the foot, or is if their flat feet or because they were born with it. The
yeah,
people who
because
are
you could always. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the people who are born with it, they as long they apply the method of fascia tensioning and hyperarch training, they would still feel in their glutes, and there's no dysfunction whatsoever with their foot. But the people that that because they wear the shoe for too long, and then they don't put any tension in their foot, and they have their foot totally collapse, that's a different type of flat feet. So like I see a lot of the assessment that the doctors give. They just say, oh, you have flat foot, you need to wear a insole. I'm like, this is not good, because it's not really the shape of your foot that gives you the athletic ability. Because ESPN recently did the body issue. I don't know if you follow that ESPN magazine.
Yeah. I've seen your post.
They basically take the elite athlete from every field. They have basketball athlete, they have field and track, they have NFL athletes, baseball athletes, and golf and whatnot. They have tons of elite athletes, and they show their body without any clothes, and also their feet. And you can see a lot of these, especially the African athlete, they have almost no arc. This doesn't mean that their foot is degenerated. So the notion of just adding a additional piece of equipment to make a arc, to me, that is counterproductive. The reason that some people don't have an arc is really because their foot structure is different. They have a lot of fascia content underneath their foot. So you don't necessarily see an arc, but that's not a bad thing, because if the more fascia content you have, you can utilize that fascia content and you make it responsive and active. It's actually much better than you have nothing there.
Yep, exactly. You know, and when you say this, as soon as you say this, I have a perfect example that I wish I had a picture of you, because this would honestly like just quiet everybody up. I have my teammate, actually. He's a sprinter. He's one of the fastest guys on my team, actually. And everybody makes fun of him because when he stands, his foot is literally to the side. Okay, like they go so far like to the side where his hips are basically like he walks like a duck, basically.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And people always make fun of the way he walks. And I swear, and I see my coach, my sprints coach, and he's always like, come on, I need you to come out the blocks and I need you to put the foot this way. But I know the truth, because there is a difference. And I know I was the difference, because I'm comparing my foot and his. And mine was just degenerated. I'm going to be honest. Okay. And because obviously now compared to, I would just show you like before and after to my picture. And he would stand like where you could see that even though his foot is to the side, he never pronates, because his the fascia is actually holding it up, like because he's not actually over pronating. His foot is just flat. It's completely flat, but his ankle doesn't roll in or anything.
Right.
It's just you can't really and every time like he's a very springy kid. Like nobody understands. Like everybody asks like, yo, why is it that you're always like hopping around or jumping? Like I could just see him. He's such a spring. Like I could tell that this kid has so much like fascia because this kid is literally 5'7". He's 5'7", and he runs really, really quick. And I think the shorter you are, I think you could tell if you're more fascia driven the shorter, because you require more fascia driven, to be honest. I think you could hide it more when you're taller because you have like a bigger stride, but like you can't fake it with him. Like you could tell that he has no arch, whatever, and his foot is really to the side, but his hip has full functionality because his hip is in alignment with his foot. It's not like his foot is to the side and then the hip is straight. You know what I mean? His foot is perfect, in a perfect alignment with it. So
Yes.
it's like it would like you know how you say lock your anterior tibia, so it could like lock in that position. It's like that's exactly him right there.
Yes. So everybody's body is a little bit different. What I found out is, so if you are born African or African descent, or you have like one of your parent is African, it doesn't automatically make you glutes dominant. Because I worked with a lot of African athletes who are actually quad dominant. So that's something that I want to point out. You know, like like before this whole thing of my research and my work and the interfacing with all the athletes and whatnot, I also had the notion that, oh, if you're African, you're just automatically athletic. But after working with them, you know, this is not true. There's a huge level in fascia fitness and glutes dominance within the African athletes community themselves. So they are African athletes who have the foot which is degenerated and they don't feel anything in the glutes. So which is something that I think this information a lot of people don't know, is that they think they can make it to the next level, or they just look at the race as some magic rule that if you're African, born African, you should just do sports, and if you're Asian, just focus on academic. I want to break that mold, because it's really not true. It's really because the foot. You have to focus on training the foot, and through the foot, and build the connections from the foot to the glutes to the abs. Then you can compete. Before then you cannot compete. But it's not a free ticket for the people who are born African.
It is exactly because like I know a lot of people, like I'm saying, like African Americans in general, because that's the population that you see most often. But
Yes.
I've seen many quad dominant that are black, like blacks that just aren't athletic. You know what I mean? So definitely that's true. I think the most important thing is just, I feel like if you have the foot but you don't have the glute, that I think it's easier, because if you have the foot, then you can make the links to your glutes. But I feel like if your foot is weak, that's what you need to do. Like,
Yes.
because your foot, you can't do the opposite. It's not like if your foot is weak, then automatically your glutes weak. You know what I mean? But if your foot is at least strong, and you've been like, and you ran barefoot through as a kid, but you never implemented it, or I feel like you have a better shot. You know what I mean? Because you have the foundation, which is the foot. You just need to make the connection to the actual glutes.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's why I feel like a lot of athletes like can be a lot better. Like their foot might seem strong, and they might not be like the most, but I think it's the connection that they have to their actual glute, how much power they're getting from that.
So since you had the conventional Olympic lifting training, and then you had the Hyperarch Fascia Training, which all sort of which all basically focus on strengthening the foot, right? Strengthening the glutes, actually. Sorry. But what is the difference? Can you sort of describe it in a way that's simple for people to understand? Like, what is the difference? Like, you thought you were doing before that's working your glute, and what is really feeling your glutes now? Like, what's the difference?
Okay, I'm gonna describe what feeling your glutes feels like. Now, when I was a kid, there was a game where I would put my hands out to the side, and like my hands would just be like parallel. Okay, so my hands are both parallel to next to each other. And what I would try and do is somebody would try to just put my hands close together. Like they would want to make it, like they would want to close my hands like this. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to resist. Now, can you picture that? Like somebody trying to close your hands together and you resisting them. Now, do you feel that? Now, that's what I would imagine the Hyperarch feeling of after you resist for at least 15 seconds or something, then you try to like squeeze the air a little bit and you feel like a little bubble in between your hands. Every time somebody tries to push your hands together and you try to resist, and then that little bubble that you feel in the air, it's like a little like a tension. Like that's what you feel like when you're running or when you're on top. When you feel like when you're at the top, you feel like your next step, like somebody's pushing you. Like as soon as you're moving, somebody's pushing your back. Right, like you don't have to try. It's like somebody
Effortless.
pushing with a rope. Yeah, it's just like doing like a fast. It's like doing like what's it called? Like a bungee run. Like when you're getting pulled, it's just like you're moving so quick. Like you don't have to think about the next step, like as if you were quad dominant. Like because when you're quad dominant, you're not fast enough to think about. You always think about the next step. But when you're glutes dominant, it's like the step before predetermines the next one. So it's like you try like, oh, let me do this step. But people forget that running is like a motion where you don't really have to think about the next one. Like what you do in one motion, the other one follows it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you don't really want to think about, okay, I'm gonna put my foot here. Like, and that's what I feel like the glutes thing is. Like you don't have to. It does the thinking for you. It moves the body for you. You just really you just steer where you want. Like your foot is the steerer and your glutes is the driver. That's what it is. That's a perfect. I think that's the way I would say it. Like your glute is it's always gonna drive you forward or whatever, and then your foot just chooses where it wants to go. But it's like your glute is always on go. It's like it's pushing you. Whereas when you're lifting weights, you don't really feel your glute. You might feel soreness in your glute, or you might feel like the weight is being held by your glutes, or like you might feel like, oh, I feel soreness there, but it's not really it's not free energy. You have to try just as hard.
You had to struggle, right?
Like no matter how, yeah, exactly. No matter if you're training your glute with weights, like, and your quads with weight, they're still gonna be the same. You know what I mean? But if you train your glutes with the hyperarch metamorphosis, it's not gonna be the same.
Right.
That's
so
what I'm gonna say.
one is your work. You're using the muscle. The other part is using the fascia. So one is done through the fascia recruitment of the glutes, and then the other one is more using the muscle to recruit the glutes. So it's a different sensation, and it will give you different results. And also the point I want to make here is, I think later on, as you progress further, you might want to focus more on the movement integration to the hyperarch mechanism, because what will happen is, because I've seen this happening, is that too much weightlifting kind of hinders your progression at a later on stage. I mean, in the beginning, it's good. If I think we're talking to a large audience here who are quad dominant and never lifted weights before, and also to athletes that stick to the weightlifting regimen. I have nothing against the weightlifting regimen, but what I'm saying is, if you're looking to win, if you're serious about winning and performance, you can try to experiment without weights as you go up in fascia fitness. When you become a more fascia-driven athlete, you focus on more integration with movement and making it more effortless, and that kind of help with your performance. And you can welcome to give this a shot once you're level 4, fully level 4, because all these levels, what they are is really measures how connected you are from your feet to your body. When I say level 4 is, there's within levels, there obviously have different degrees of level 4, because it's hard to say, okay, this guy started feeling the glutes and then the abs right together.
Yeah.
But you could be a low level 4, meaning you can feel
Exactly,
some sensation, but it's not deep enough. It's like, I think when I used to lift weights, I lifted weights for probably 10 years of my life, because I was very serious about performance and whatnot. When I was younger, I was doing more martial arts training, but when I came to the States, I was very, very serious about weightlifting, and I believe that was the way to go. I tried it. So I was actually, at one point, I was lifting almost 2.2 times my body weight. So, wow. Yeah, I was very serious. I was like doing the 5x5, squat and also the deadlift. And but what really intrigued me is that my athletic friend, who was lifting much less than me, and yet he was moving effortlessly and performing just vastly superior than me. So I'm like, I was doing all the training, all the plyometric training, and also lifting and following to the letter, and yet I still don't have that type of effortlessness in the movement. Um, so now I understand, because it's a totally different thing. It's like one is faster driven, one is muscle driven. It's completely different. Um, yeah, can you tell me, like, have you get any chance to look at the best athlete on your team? Are their fees also morphed?
Yo, it's funny you say that. Like, that's all I do now. Like, honestly, I cannot stop. Like, I just look like all I do is look at like people's feeds. I look at just like if I just see like the signs that I'm noticing too. Like, I see everything. Like, I think I could give you every single sign that like a person that goes through Hyperarch could goes through, like, or like what they feel like, because I see my teammates' feet. Like, they possess a lot of the things, a lot of the best ones, I would say. Not all of them, because to me, it's kind of like, this is why I kind of get like a little bit frustrated when people say, "Oh, there's talent," because I can't really believe in talent. Because I'm gonna tell you why. Because when you say there's an elite caliber athlete, let's just say like LeBron James, and there's just a NFL player that's close to LeBron but not quite there, how do you really measure talent, like, at that point, right? Because, like, why is it that it's either you're talented or you're not? But if a person runs a 10.5 in the 100, but they're not running a 9.58, like, are they not talented? You know what I mean? So how can you say that they're talented? So don't you think there has to be something else that we have to look at? You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
there would be so many degrees to talent. Because if you think about it, it's not a coincidence that every quad dominant person in the world is jumping around the same distance in the long jump, let's say around 20 feet, or they might be able to get a 22 or something if they do a lot of like weightlifting or whatever. But then all the caliber and all the athletes whose feet look the exact same, they're jumping that same distance. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can say they're talented, but it's kind of like, if you train that way, then you'll get that way. And a lot of my athletes at my school, they have it to some degree and some don't. And they really possess a lot of, like, not really like the tendons, but I feel like they have like the fascia. Like, you could just see like the cushion in their feet. Like, I don't, like, it's not like you can see like it's like a little bit stiffer, like a little heavier, like, you know what I mean? But they have the
Mm-hmm.
tendons, but to some
Yeah.
degree, I think in order to get the tendons, I think you need to be more like a higher level athlete than they are, even higher. But
So,
I
right, I understand what you mean. The fascia content in the foot and also the ankle matters a lot. So the more you have, the easier it is for you to benefit from hyperarch fascia training. So that's partially genetic, and then partially you have to train. For your long jump, have you like, long jump is definitely different than, let's say, a high jump, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is the training cue that you focus on to cover more ground versus somebody who's going up for height? Like, what do you focus on to jump further away?
Okay. You see, like, now my perception of this is completely different, because ever since I started feeling my glutes, like, honestly, all I can think about myself is right now on the runway, like how I'm gonna run down that runway, what I'm gonna feel, because I'm like, Ian, you're gonna run so fast, and as soon as you're putting down your foot at takeoff, I'm gonna feel my glute behind me. You know what I mean? So, like, I know that as soon as I put my foot down, it's gonna be like a push, like somebody's gonna push me off the board, kind of, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
feel that, so it's kind of like automatic, like, and it's not like I have to be like as aggressive, like through weight training, like where I have to act like, where I have to be more strong, like, oh, put your foot down as hard as you can, you know what I mean? Or do this, like, it's more about like trying to stay relaxed and let it just come to me more fluid, like, be quick, like, but like just let the glutes do the work, because, like, yeah, my body's doing all the work, like my arms are moving, everything, but the free energy is pushing me forward. So it's kind of like I just want to let it come to me, basically. That's my cue. Like, I'm just thinking about, let the jump come to me, like, don't rush it. And
Right. I think one aspect that people don't know too much about is the relaxation. like you talk about relaxation, right? So before, when you, let's say before you do this training, before, were your body more tense doing the approaches before the 3 steps, or how were you doing before versus now?
Yeah, like right now, like I know that if I were to get on the runway right now, and I'm like, and I'm just, it's you have to muscle your way out, like when you're pushing out the back of the runway, like on a start, let's say on a block start, where your body has no momentum, where you have to create momentum. I feel like that's the hardest part for a quad dominant athlete, because you have to create energy out of nothing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, if you're not glutes dominant, then you don't have that extra energy to push you from the back. And especially if you're quad dominant and you're doing something from a still, from being, then this is going to be really hard, and this is going to look uncomfortable. And that's why, like, short approach jumps for me were always like really hard before doing the string. Like I could just see why it's hard. I could understand. Like, I'm just saying, I could understand why things are a certain way when you're quad dominant.
Like, how many steps do you usually take to?
So in a regular jump, in a full competition jump, I would do 16 steps, which is 8 strides.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what. So that would be like enough to build like momentum into the pit, like whatever I need. But
so as an outsider, I don't know too much about triple jump rules, but are you allowed to take more steps than 16, or 16 is the max?
No, you can take as many steps. Your approach to the board can be as long as you want it to be.
Okay.
That you just have to be able to be on the board, whatever.
But you have to convert that into the last step that you have to step on before the
exactly.
white line, right?
Yeah, you always have to be on the board. Yep. But we run our marks back. So we run it the opposite way that we're running it when we're gonna jump. So then when we run it to actually jump, we're on the board, so we don't foul or anything like that.
Right, because I think the issue here is, let's say if you start off like further away, but you're gaining a momentum, but you're not necessarily going to step on the board, right? That's a foul, which is not good, because I think you have a certain number of fouls and you're out, right?
Yeah.
Is it 3 or?
Yeah, you have 3 jumps, and if you foul all 3, then you don't have a chance to make it to the finals.
So when you train, you have to basically time your step so that your last step is right on the board to give you the maximum result.
Exactly. You have to, but we train so when we run our steps back, like we run it so that our foot, we start with our right foot on 16 steps. I put my right foot in front. So when I run and I run 16 strides, you have to run the same way. So then when I run down, my foot will perfectly be on the board. So you don't have to think about it. So it's like the coach's job to do it for you. So they make sure that you're on the board, and you shouldn't really think too much about the board. So at 60, you should just be perfectly on the board.
Okay. And I remember talking to Marquise Goodwin, who's also a long jumper. He's not a triple jumper, but he's a long jumper. I remember him saying, like, the last step, he actually just focused on putting the foot down straight, not trying to extend it. Can you talk about that?
Okay. My opinion about that, I think the reason many people focus on that is, I think it's just because of like your position. When your foot is out of too much in front, then your body is out of position. Your hips are behind your center of mass, meaning you're not able to engage your glutes or the proper muscles correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a good jump, you shouldn't really have to think about putting your foot right under. I mean, you should think about putting your foot under you, but if it doesn't happen, then that means that it wasn't really a timing issue. I feel like your glutes push you. You know how they push you? So like when you're stepping to take off, I feel like you're pushing. Since you have that little free energy behind you, I feel like it should automatically put your hip under your foot. So it's like a straight line. It's like a vertical line from your head to your foot. So I feel like if you have that straight line, then it converts that energy that you have horizontal and makes it to like vertical.
Right. Yeah. So for the triple jump, right? What type of injury do you guys usually see? But it's different than basketball. Every sport is a little bit different, right? So like basketball, for example, because there's a lot of landing, and a lot of people with low fascia fitness levels, they have a patella tendonitis. So for long jump, and triple jump, what type of injuries do you guys usually see?
Exactly. I started this training in 11th grade, and the reason I started was because I've actually had a heel injury, and I've had like at least 4 or 5 heel injuries, and
Okay.
this was before my fashion, like I would say 4, just because of the triple jump, and my senior year and junior, and that's when I was doing like a lot of barefoot running, and I was still doing it because of my foot injury. So I was just doing like a lot of barefoot stuff, like, and incorporating your stuff, and that was the reason why I first got to find out about your training and stuff like that. But because of that, was because I was mainly getting heel bruises, like, and I just didn't really have like cushion under my foot. Like it was just straight to bone. It was like straight to bone, and it was just like it's nothing like I have now. Like Chong, it was honestly like a miracle that I got to this point. Like so I'm just like
Okay.
I'm really grateful. Like honestly, like it was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
Like
well, I'm really happy to hear you talking about this because I've been out there like a crazy person talking about this thing that people are missing, and then people giving me the looks, you know.
no, Chong, believe it or not, man, this is not the way, like the weightlifting, no amount of work could replace this. Like, yeah, the sport is always going to be secondary to this, but this is the foundation. If you don't have this, then you don't have anything. And people confuse this and think that weightlifting is the foundation, when in fact, this is the foundation.
Right. That's one of the point I want to make is uh, the because there was a misunderstanding. I think I talk about this in my podcast with Joel Smith on his performance podcast. Is
Yeah.
is people misunderstood that the lack of performance is not due to uh, the strength of the muscle. It's really the strength of the fascia tissues. So then we have a society where we're focused on training the muscle, and we don't train the fascia because we don't have the method or the theory to work on. We don't have a foundation. We don't have a understanding of that. My background is a little bit different because I come from the East. With martial arts, what really made me fascinated was uh, the the martial artists, the greatest ones. They don't focus on lifting weights. So for one, that really kind of uh, gave me kind of hint, right? So it also gave me a different perspective on things because China is always a nation that's had a rich history, and then what they're training and also the medical philosophy is different. They focus on the holisticness, and the reason that we have so many people today is because people are not dying, so it must be working somehow. Um, so the philosophy, the medical philosophy of the holisticness, it's working. But I think a lot of these martial artists, because they value, obviously, winning is the most important, right? Winning battles or winning matches or winning anything in a one-on-one situation or one versus many is the knowledge of the training, right? So if they say if they just freely give this information out to everyone, then everybody have the same level of playing field. Then it's harder for them to win. So in that aspect, they try to either encode it or kind of hide it in plain sight. I think I'm very lucky that from studying research of Taiji and also understanding the Western principles of dissection and understanding what is actually the component of the body, understanding the fascia, because back in China there is no word for the Western word of fascia. There was no such word. So what they did was they used a word called silk web. I mean, sorry, the web of a silkworm. But if you actually Google the web of the silkworm, and then you Google an image of the fascia, you will find amazing similarity in the two, because they're all like web-like, and then they're very similar in the structure. So that's really fascinating. I'm happy to have you talk to me today, and I think it's getting quite late. I'm gonna send you the all the information, and
Mhm.
we're gonna stop here. And I thank you again for taking your time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.